Nothing ever happens. My motto for life. I suppose that's not true anymore. You go through your life and it's filled with books, movies, and TV shows showing fictional people living crazy lives with major events one after another. Worse still, many are based on true stories of people that lived before the age of nothing happening. Back when world wars and plagues were still a thing, and you wish your own life could be exciting or interesting, but in the back of your mind you know that people like Audie Murphy or Davy Crockett only lived such amazing lives because they were willing to voluntarily stick their head in the proverbial lion's mouth. These days, though, there is no great cause to sacrifice for, and no crisis to force myself to action. A life of comfortable mediocrity for almost everyone. Even though I knew that massive action would be required to live a truly fulfilling life, the comfort of streaming videos on my computer and fast food whenever I wanted it kept me stuck, broken, and empty inside. Until now. My current predicament came from seeking the cure for depression. Not the, oh my god, I want myself kind of depression. More the, what's the point of getting out of bed kind of depression. The kind where everything loses its joy. Good food doesn't taste like anything, and funny movies don't make you laugh. A creeping numbness. Anyways, I'd been renting out a basement suite for the last year at a small house in town. None of the houses were newer than maybe 80s or 90s vintage, and most were showing their age. My neighbor's property was especially overgrown. The lawn was never cut. Weeds and unruly bushes choked the space. Dead branches and piles of leaves littered the ground and generally gave the feeling of an abandoned property. It was only recently that I saw the resident of the home, a very old, very stooped-over lady. I'd realized the property was probably in the state that it was in because she had neither the strength to do the work herself or the money to hire someone to do it. Well, like I said, when you're depressed, things tend to lose their appeal. I'd played the same video games, watched the same movies, and generally tried to escape from life for so long that even my escapes weren't escapes anymore. The general disorder of her yard and what remained of my heart felt for the poor lady, so one day I found myself on her front step, volunteering to clean her yard for her for free. It was surprisingly enjoyable. If I worked hard enough, I didn't really ponder my own existence. The time flew by and the sweet old lady was very grateful. But a yard can only produce so much work, however, and before long my yard cleaning days were at an end, leaving me with no excuse to go outside anymore. Unless, of course, I invented one. Which is how I found myself hiking through the woods, looking for an isolated spot by the river. I'd considered many outdoor activities, and had settled on trying gold panning. It seemed less involved than fishing or hunting, and didn't have as many fees or licenses. Of course, if I wanted to find anything, then I need to find a more isolated bend in the river, where the water slowed down and gold particles could settle out of the river's flow. I found what looked like a good spot on an online map, and upon getting there, I figured I'd bitten off more than I could chew. The gradient off the road was way steeper than I expected. I practically had to rock climb my way down to the woods below. I broke through the underbrush towards the river, when to my surprise, I pushed through into a small trail aligned parallel to the river. It seemed like a game trail, something deer might use to ease their passage. I decided to follow it a ways and see if it led to the river rather than smashing through the undergrowth. I'd been following it for a little while when the strange markings started to appear. Thousands of parallel scratches back and forth across the trail. What on earth could cause that? I followed the trail a little further until I stumbled a little. What was that? I had felt a thin line of resistance across my shins that was there momentarily and then gone. Fishing line. Did someone snag their spool on a branch? I grabbed it and pulled, following the tautness until it came to a tree. It was tied securely to a small tree branch, deliberately. A tripwire? I quickly ran the line through my hands until I came to their end. Attached to it was a piece of popsicle stick. Think. Nothing's blown up, and no alarms are blaring. Some sort of silent alarm? The meaning of the scratches on the trail suddenly became clear to me. Someone had tried to obscure their tracks with a brush or tree branch. Whatever was going on, it was probably not healthy for me to remain here. I turned tail and began to walk quickly back the way I came. A noise came from behind me, a snarling noise off in the distance. I turned, and far off down the trail I saw them. A pair of the most enormous pit bulls I'd ever seen in my life, running full speed towards me with murder in their eyes. I hurled myself down the trail as fast as my feet would carry me. Even so, despair clutched at my heart, for I knew I could never outrun them. A thought occurred to me, a mental picture from an old story I'd read, where a fox was trying to escape hunting dogs. A picture of a fox whose only advantage that it was running for its life, and therefore no risk was too great. I turned and flung myself through the bushes, forcing my way through them down the steep hill. If I stayed on the trail, I was dead. If these bushes remained this dense the whole way down, I was dead too. But if they opened up, and then I was clear. The brush opened up, and larger trees with open ground between them appeared. The slope that I had been running down with short shuffle steps to keep from tripping got even more steep, and I wasn't running so much as digging and pumping my heels into the ground to keep myself from tumbling or falling end over end. I heard a yelping noise right behind me, and in a panic launched myself off to the left as hard as I could and slammed right into a tree. The wind was forced from my lungs as my sternum connected with the trunk. I tried to grab on, but the pain slowed my reflexes, and I started to tumble down the hill. A tree! I need to grab a tree, I thought. From the corner of my eye, I caught a flash of the two monstrous dogs caught in the same trap that I was, tumbling down the hill, sustaining injuries along the way. If I manage to grab a tree, my foes will fall to the bottom of the hill, and the embankment is steep enough they'll have serious trouble getting back up. On level ground, a human cannot outrun a pit bull. A climbing competition, on the other hand. As I tumbled and rolled down the hill, my plan was foiled by a shocking pain in my side as I slammed into something harder than wood, and I bounced, slamming face first into a stone wall just as unyielding. Everything went black, but merciful unconsciousness would not come. Instead, I slammed into one smooth, slick, vicious wall after another, after another, after another. Each hit lanced searing pain through my body, and before I could recover my senses, the bottom of my stomach dropped as I was pitched into the uncertain void of total blackness yet again. Finally, my body hit something solid, and my limp arms flopped forward and around it. Miraculously, they met in the middle behind it. I was hanging on to something. Before I could repeat my mistake with the tree on the hill, I squeezed every muscle I had to clamp my body to this strange pole thing. I had done it. My gravity-induced beating had, at least for the moment, come to an end.